We have a very special program tonight, and two important ladies of national prominence. And so, welcome, Lee Susowitz and Belinda Hula.
Thank you, Douglas.
Hello,
Thank
Douglas.
So it's great to have you ladies back. I wish we were doing a more positive thing than talking about the death of Tom Susowitz, your husband. Oh, how many years was it? Lee, you were married.
Almost 47 years, Douglas.
Okay. And so, folks, this is a tragic situation. And so, this is part 3 of a series we're doing on this case. That is so complicated, and there are things that happen daily. So, would you ladies please give a little summary of the first 2 documentaries we did, an hour apiece?
We talked about the jobs that Tom had, the kind of person he was, how much he cared. Oh, I'm sorry. Thomas Machusowitz is my husband. He was the gentleman who did the shooting in the Wilmington courthouse on February the 11th. I believe that because of Tom's meningioma, that's a non-cancerous or non-malignant tumor in the covering of his brain. Tom snapped when he saw my ex-daughter-in-law, Christine Belford, and he shot her.
Why was he mad at her?
Christine had totally annihilated my son. She said all the time that she knew that the way to hurt him was by hurting their children, and she did. They had gone through custody and divorce, and it was just a terrible, terrible time. When I found out that my 5-year-old granddaughter was being molested by Christine, because the mother, yes. When I found out that Laura was being molested by Christine, I went with my son and I took their 3 daughters, Laura Lee and Karen Machusowitz, ages 5, 4, and 2, to Central America, because my son loved his wife and didn't want anybody to hurt her, no matter what. But he loved his children and had to get them to safety. We were hoping that that's what we had done when we left, but the powers that be brought us back, and they put the children back with their abusive, incestuous mother.
Right.
My husband.
How many personalities that you were able to recognize?
She was never diagnosed officially with multiple personalities, but I met 4 different people. I met Chrissy, a 10-year-old whose hand was always in the cookie jar. I met Chris, loving, wonderful wife and mother. I met Christine. This is the personality that went to court, and she was going to trounce everybody to get her way. And then there was Christine. You didn't want to meet Christine. That Christine I call Christine with a K. That's.
Why do you call it with a K?
Pardon?
Why do you call her name with a K, and what made her different than the other Christine?
Okay, the other Christine, I call her Christine with a CH. The spelling of her name, Christine. That's the Christine that went to court, and she was good. She should have been a lawyer. The Christine that was with the K was the one who molested her child, who told me that she had planned on selling the 3 girls. She was going to get $50,000 each. And no one would be able to find them because of her connections to the local crime family. That was Christine with a K.
Okay.
All right.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about this case that we've covered in the last 2 interviews?
New development. There are new charges being filed against David Matuzewicz. My biggest question is, who put everybody in jeopardy by forcing David Matuzewicz to come to Delaware to talk about money? Not his children, not his wife or ex-wife, money. Okay?
You knew he didn't have any, right?
No. No.
He was a
invested.
millionaire,
I'm sorry, say again?
and he learned what was happening to his children, and he risked everything, sold everything at half price to raise enough cash to flee the country with his 3 precious little daughters, right?
That's right. That's right. He had a practice worth over $1.5 million. He built it up from about $325,000 to that $1.5 million, and he was on his way. But he sold it for approximately $800,000 so that he could take the children to safety.
And they lost most of it in a bad investment. I suspect that investment he was a contact about offshore.
Yes.
Probably a mafia game to steal his money. Because think about it, why would anybody in his right mind invest in something offshore, a bank he didn't know anything about, unless they offered him much better interest than he could get here in America?
Oh, they did. They did. I can't remember the percentage, but it was phenomenal. Nothing we could touch here in the States.
Oh, Lee, did you support him investing in that bank?
I told the man who came to explain it that I didn't understand it and that I would probably never understand it. I'm not one who has followed the stock market or anything like that. I really don't know anything about investments. And I told David, you got to wing it on this one. I don't know. I just don't know.
How about your husband, Tom, David's father? What was his advice on the investment?
I don't know. We really didn't talk about it. The only thing I said was I didn't understand it, and I didn't think we should invest in it. But on the other hand, I closed out my IRAs and gave David the money, saying, use it for the trip, invest it, whatever you need, whatever you want.
And do you know how Dr. David even heard about an offshore bank? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know.
You need to find out from him as soon as possible. Have his attorney find out, because I think he can prove fraud. I realize he got many things on his mind right now, but he needs to recall who referred him to that investment and who he made the investment with, because there's got to be some way of tracking that money.
Well, it's going to have to be through the attorney, but they won't talk to me, Douglas.
If it's a new charges, what are all the charges? Let's talk about each charge against him and deal with them one at a time.
I don't have the copy of the charges. I kind of made notes. Okay.
So based on
One
your
of the
notes.
charges, one of the charges is he was living in a house where guns and ammunition were available. This could have been avoided if the probation officer in charge of David's case had come to inspect his new living arrangements on October the 15th, 2012. probation officers still have not inspected my house. When David moved in, I asked him, I told Tom, you have to get rid of all the weapons from our house. He got a storage shed or something from a man named Gene and said they were gone.
Good.
David told his father that he would rather go live at the Salvation Army than live in a house where weapons were housed. And David did not want to go back to prison.
Of course not.
Amy hadn't seen, the next charge, there was ammunition left out where it was readily available. Amy had been going to my house to turn on different lights, make sure it looks like the house is being lived in. She said there wasn't any ammunition left out anywhere when she went to change the lights. At least Amy and possibly Juan and Christopher Gonzalez had visited between the 4th and the 11th.
You need to explain who Amy is.
Amy is my daughter. She's married to Juan Gonzalez. Amy is a nurse. Juan is a stay-at-home
How far
father.
do you live from your home down there in Texas?
How far from my home? She lives about a 20-minute ride.
Okay. And so she's taking care of your home while you're away.
Right. Now, they said I guess it's the officers or whoever went through and ransacked my house said that ammunition was found out and readily available. Because ammunition was found on the 12th when they did their inspection, it doesn't mean it was there on or before the 4th when we left for Delaware. Tom didn't leave ammunition around because we have a very curious 7-year-old granddaughter. He didn't leave guns out, not that I knew of, not that David knew of, because of Tatiana.
Police that investigated your home and ransacked your home were lying about finding bullets out like that?
I don't know, Douglas. Amy said she didn't see anything out.
And have you ever seen bullets left out in your home at any time since you had a granddaughter who could walk around?
No. Tom always had them away, locked up, out of sight. The only place he might have had bullets left out was in the camper, and that was locked.
Who's Bob?
I'm sorry, say again?
Who is Bob?
You mentioned Amy, you mentioned Juan.
No, Juan. It's J as in,
Okay.
yeah, J as in John, U as in Ursula, A as in Andy, N as in Nancy.
Right.
Okay.
But Juan would not be in your house, would he, for any reason?
Juan may have gone to the house to fix something, put the lights on or off if Amy couldn't go. He had a key.
Yeah, I mean, you still sound to me like you're giving the feds an excuse. They can charge Juan. Was there any reason to suspect that Juan would carry bullets into your home?
No, he was your son-in-law.
I don't know. He's my son-in-law. But he
Or
may
did
have
you ever
moved
go to
them.
your home and left them laying around before?
Pardon?
Has he ever carried bullets into your home and left them laying around before?
No.
So why would you even bring him up as a possibility?
I'm just saying he may have found them someplace and brought them into the house.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
Ammo. Never do that. Think about it. You're incriminating people that have no reason to be incriminated. So please stop doing that.
Okay.
Now, next, of course, your husband, tell about his military service and his police record, etc.
Tom was in the Navy back in the 60s. He was trained as a photographer, but he had to carry a gun in one hand and the camera in his other hand.
What in the other hand?
Pardon?
He had to carry a gun in one hand. What else?
Camera.
Okay.
He was on the Lexington for a short time. He had to take pictures of the planes.
What's the Lexington? A battleship or aircraft carrier or what?
Aircraft carrier.
Okay.
It was.
What
It's
years was he in the military? Was it during the Vietnam War?
yes,
Okay.
yes. He was supposed to leave for Vietnam, and as he was going to get on the helicopter or plane or whatever it was, he got tapped on the shoulder, and a gentleman said, "I've got it from here. You're relieved."
Okay.
Okay. All right. They said
So,
that
a question then. Do you know what years he was in Vietnam?
he never went overseas to Vietnam. Like I said, he was on the Lexington. I don't know where the Lexington was. He wasn't allowed to tell.
But was it during the Vietnam War?
Tom was in the service for 6 years, and he got out in 67 after David was born.
What year?
67.
67. Okay, that was during the Vietnam War, right?
Yes,
But he was never there. Okay.
so
And
far as I
then,
know.
you said he was a police officer, and how long was he a police officer, and what city and state?
He was a police officer in Vineland, New Jersey. I'm not sure how many years. He started in 1973 when we were trying to live with his father and his aunt, his maiden aunt. And then he left. I'm not sure if it was 4 or 5 years later. There was some question. I'm not sure exactly why he left the police officer. I do know that one of our neighbor's sons threw a brick through our picture window in the front of the house because Tom was a policeman.
Interesting.
It's what the boy said.
Oh.
Um,
So, and Tom was a member of the National Rifle Association. How long was he a member of that? Any idea?
Lifetime.
Lifetime member, okay.
Yep.
And did he ever commit a crime that he was arrested for of just a traffic ticket?
No. No. Not that I know of. No. Okay. They said they found weapons, guns or something in the camper, and the key was readily accessible to David. We always kept the keys to the motorhome hidden in the RV, not in the house. But we had bags of keys, only God knows what there were too. We had keychains full of keys. We had loose keys all over. I didn't know what they were from. Tom didn't know what most of them were from. How could David know? He's been away since 2007.
So he's been away for over 5 years.
Yeah, how is he going to know what the keys are for in my house, no matter where they are?
Okay.
Okay. But
and where did Tom get his gun?
Where did Tom get his guns? I think some were inherited, and I know he bought some. I know some of the weapons belonged to David, who was also a collector. When David was an optometrist, I believe one of his patients gave him a sword. So I don't know where all the guns came from, but like I said, Tom collected them. He liked to collect guns, and he made bullets. The reason he made bullets, he said it made him calm. It calmed him down. Some people paint, some people sculpt.
Oh, sure.
Tom made bullets.
Exactly.
And he said, you don't want bullets in your gun that are over a year old. They might misfire. And if you need a gun to shoot that bullet better go off.
And so how many guns and rifles, let's say pistols and rifles, would you say that Tom had?
I don't know.
Who did he inherit the guns from?
He would have inherited from his dad. I don't know if he inherited any from his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's all going to come out in the grand jury and all this stuff. I'm trying to prepare you for the grand jury. Understand?
Yes.
And so my question again is, how many, will you estimate, how many pistols or rifles did Tom have?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't.
Most wives don't care that much about guns, and the men are defenders of the family and the country, so we like to collect guns, and that's a very common thing, especially people who've been in the military.
Well, the other thing.
How many pistols or rifles would you say that Dr. David had?
I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So you probably ask these kind of questions tomorrow.
Well, if they ask me that question, I still have to say the same thing. I have no idea how many guns he had. I have no idea how many.
Did you ever fire a rifle or a pistol?
Pardon?
Did
I ever fire? Did I ever fire? When David was about a year old, we went to Tom's cousin's land in I can't remember, Neshannock Station, and they set up a target, and they handed me a shotgun, and they said hit the can. I pulled the trigger. The explosion next to my head caused me not to be able to hear for like 2 or 3 hours. My baby was crying, and I couldn't hear him. But they said you hit the target. Then, sometime after going to Texas, Tom said because we live in an area where home invasions, kidnappings, drug wars, drug dealings, people trafficking, those are common events every day. You have to know how to protect yourself. So he took me out into the backyard. He got this gun, pistol, revolver, whatever it's called. He showed me how to put a clip in it and hit it so that it stayed. And then he said, shoot that target. And I shot it. And then he said, you hit it, but you have to look through these two sights. How did you hit it? And I said, I don't know. So he said, well, you must be a natural then, because you hit it before and you hit it again. And you don't know what you're doing, so you've got to be a natural.
The other thing, Douglas, is Lee and her family, Lenore and her family, live on the border of Mexico and Texas. The cartel are, in fact, her neighbors. So she...
Cartel? What do you mean cartel?
Drug dealers, people that bring people from different parts of the country, Mexico, wherever, and smuggle them into the United States. A lot of times those people are found dead in trucks or in fields. Just a bad situation, a really bad situation.
Do you ever have any illegal people from Mexico try to break into your home?
The dogs keep them away.
Yeah, my dogs. I've got 2 large dogs and 4 puppies, and they don't. I haven't had any problems. I haven't had any problems with anybody trying to break in so far.
Okay.
Except the police.
Right.
Okay.
Did you ever have any tires stolen off your vehicles in the yard?
No.
No.
Because no one can get past the dogs. The dogs are allowed to run free on the property, Douglas.
Oh, okay.
So-
free. Okay.
So they're guard dogs. They know the property line, and they seem to stay within the property line. Even if someone like the mailman has the package to deliver, he has to go in front of their house and honk and not leave his vehicle because
That's right.
the dogs surround the vehicle.
That's right.
Okay.
Um,
Let's think about some more questions. Melinda, why don't you here with a couple of questions that she'll be asked tomorrow? Or a good chance you'll be asked. We have to prepare her for this. Because we know that remember, since the feds, Melinda, heard a federal attorney talk about setting up. Why don't you repeat that statement that federal attorney who was supposed to be in the public defender's office defending Dr. David, what did he say that you overheard, Melinda?
Discrimination is still a problem. That the arrest of these white people will please the public. That led me to believe only one thing, and there is no other way to take that. That this family is being judged and tried and prosecuted in every which way you can imagine, simply because in Wilmington, Delaware, for the balance of those who have been arrested, they need to arrest more white people. So they're going through my entire family. They're going through David, they already have him, and everyone else that they can think of for whatever charges they can come up with, because the gentleman who shot, when he saw his daughter-in-law, his ex-daughter-in-law, Tom Matuszewicz, is dead. So there is no sacrificial lamb to present to the public. That is what I think is going on. And to further cement that, Douglas, we had the state police from Delaware in our home, 2 of them. That's all fine, well, and good. They needed to ask questions. After they left, Douglas, one state police officer from Delaware followed my husband. My husband's 6'4", 300 pounds. One of them followed my son, Franklin. Just one. Franklin is also 6 feet, maybe 2, and he's also 300 pounds. Lee and my daughter had to travel 45 minutes away and back again. They had a caravan of state police, Delaware. My daughter just turned 18. She just started driving. She's inexperienced, and she has not one Delaware unmarked car behind her, but she has 4, and they kept interchanging their position behind my daughter's vehicle. They met up in Manahawkin when she visited her grandmother. Lenore needed to pick up a second vehicle. That's why the 2 of them went there to Manahawkin. And on their way back, since in fact it was very clear that my daughter let them know, I've seen all 4 of you. I know you're back there. So let's just all stop playing games here. So on the way back, my daughter was the first vehicle. Am I right?
I was the second.
Oh, Lenore was the second vehicle, and my daughter was so concerned about the welfare for Lenore that she kept looking in her rear view mirror from Manahawkin to Bayville, keeping an eye on her beloved Lenore and watching these vehicles caravan behind both of them. So when we went to our local police department and we simply asked, what is going on with this kind of treatment of our daughter, our child, the youngest in the family? The police officer we spoke to, very well-trained individual, said that's not something they would do, that they questioned that it was professional treatment of a minor who just turned 18, and they wondered why 4 vehicles had to follow the young one when only one, my husband, one, my son, and I hadn't seen any behind myself. I'm accustomed to looking in the rearview mirror. That is a question that when I go to Delaware, I would like to ask them myself.
All right.
Okay, one of the new charges is that
Let's start with all the charges. Let's start with the first one. Let's not just talk about the new one.
The first charge, Douglas, is the fact that while they were here, we received information that a storm was moving in, pretty much like we have tonight. A storm is moving in. Everybody's receiving warnings to stay home, stay off the road. When David got that information, David, his mother, and his father decided on the side of caution, they should leave a little bit earlier, visit their friends, and from that point, while they were at their friends, they decided to stay overnight rather than come back to our home. Staying overnight allowed them to be only 1/2 hour from the courthouse. This meeting with the judge was very important to David. So a 1/2 hour away was certainly better with bad weather coming than 2.5 hours away, which is the distance they would have been if they stayed at our home. Now, as they're a 1/2 hour away from the courthouse, that is the reason why David was, let us just say, held as a witness, which is the first statement made to David's family. David was simply being held as a witness after the shooting. Then we find out because David chose to stay a 1/2 hour away from the courthouse versus 2.5 hours away, then they decided that he was in a minor violation of his probation, and that they added that if anybody else would have done the same thing under similar circumstances, it would not have been a problem.
But probation, as I know it, is closed on Sunday. This was Sunday night. How was David supposed to call to get permission to stay closer to the court so that he wasn't late?
Again, when the shooting took place, Douglas, let's go back to that day of the shooting, the horrible tragedy. David already went through security. David was not near his father. David was heading to the room where trial was going to take place. He was looking forward to speaking to his honor for the purpose of revisiting the possibility of seeing his children, or at least knowing how they are, whether it be the judge that makes that possible or his ex-wife, who may have softened over time, which is what he was hoping for. In any case, he was hoping for crumbs of information about his children. So he didn't mind being there to revisit, let's say, child support. They know that they had him in jail for 4 years. They know that in jail you make piddly of income. How much is it he makes per month in jail?
$5.
$5 per month. But they were charging him child support based on his being an optometrist for the last 4 years. So he felt that if he just went there and reminded them they're the ones that incarcerated him, so they know better than anyone that he was in jail for the last 4 years, how then can they charge him based on an optometrist income for the last number of years, and then hold him responsible for not paying that money when they knew he didn't have it in the first place because he was in jail making $5 a month. So he felt if he could.
Okay, right. That was very obvious.
Yes.
They, like Lee said, they ordered him to appear in court, which means that he had to spend a lot of money to go there. And I can see why they didn't want him to be there, since they're trying to extract money from him, which he didn't have. And they knew he didn't have any money because he had a public defender, hadn't he, for some time?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Even for
he didn't have a public defender.
he had a public defender for his parental rights hearing. Judge Barbara Crowell, the divorced mother of 3 children, took away David's parental rights. I think it was last year. He didn't have to come to court for that. He didn't have to come to court to talk to a mediator to explain this so-called charge that he hadn't paid his child support or restitution. But he had the checks that were cashed by the people they told him to send it to. So he was bringing copies of that to the court.
All right.
Now, they're saying that there was some problem with David's work. David had applied to the state of Texas to get an optometry license so that he could make the money they wanted to support his children. Okay?
Right.
But because he hadn't practiced optometry in the last 5 of the for the last 5 of the for 5 of the last 7 years, he couldn't be grandfathered in. He would have to get permission from probation to go to, I think it was one of the Carolinas, to take proficiency tests to get a license in Texas.
That's weird.
Well, he was appealing that, and I thought he was supposed to have a hearing or something with the Board of Optometry. According to the probation people, no, there was there wasn't going to be any hearing. So they're thinking that David lied. I don't know. I know that David wouldn't lie, but
They're accusing him of lying on what?
about needing to have a hearing to clear up this application. He was hoping to be able to be grandfathered in because he practiced optometry for like 17 years.
Right.
But because
Obviously,
he hadn't,
was very ambitious, or he wouldn't have been able to increase his business from a value of 300,000 to 5 times that, 1.5 million. That's for sure.
and most of his practice grew from word of mouth. You tell two friends and they tell two friends, that kind of idea.
Right.
He
Okay,
did some
let's
advertising.
talk about some more questions that the grand jury may be asking you. For example, surely, since your husband had lots of guns, you must have known he was going to take guns with him to Delaware, didn't you?
No, I asked him, don't bring any weapons with you. I can understand your needing them in Texas, in the border. I could understand that. But please, please, I begged him, don't bring any with you now. David can't be near guns.
What was his response when you begged him?
I'm sorry, say again?
What was his response when you begged him?
He said, okay, fine. But we took 2 cars. Now, if David was thrown into jail for non-payment of child support, even though he had the checks, we needed to leave a car for him to return to Texas. And Tom and I could take the other one back. So he would have a way to get back. We didn't have the money for him to fly. He didn't have a credit card to rent a car. So we needed 2 cars, one way or the other. And Tom drove the Civic the whole way. And David and I drove the CRV.
Right.
Douglas, just as a point of interest for anyone who's listening and who would like to look at what led up to this tragedy, all they need to do is go to the website JonBenet's with an S, truecasehistory.com, and plug in a grandmother's impossible choice tab, and they will see what has been available actually to the world for the last 5-6 years, that this family was in trouble, and these are the things that led up to the troubles, and help was needed in reference to Christine and her multiple personalities. David went to see a court-appointed psychiatrist. Chris was to do the same. She refused. And the problems began from that point, which led us to where we are today.
So my question is, why did he refuse to see his court-appointed psychiatrist?
He didn't.
He went. She did not. She refused. His ex-wife
Christine refused.
And the court did not push the matter.
Right.
If
That's bizarre to me that here, as I recall, one of the therapists said that I'm talking to the wrong person. I should be talking to the mother of these children, or his wife. And for the court not to order that tells me that the judge has some liability for not ordering her to be evaluated by a court-appointed therapist.
Right. It was Dr. Cuba. I can't remember the name of the institution, but Dr. Cuba said that, yeah, he should be evaluated, Christine, not David. Now, one of the.
Did you get that in writing?
Yes.
Good.
Now, one of the problems, one of the charges was, one of the new charges for David, um, David was traveling with me, his co-conspirator, when we took the children to Central America. But the probation officer, his original probation officer, had no qualms about David's living with me. No problem with that whatsoever. How come his traveling with me is a problem? Now,
That's absurd.
when David was picked up because of Christine's false charges, and she said they were false in a telephone conversation that was transcribed by the Mike O'Rourke agency, Tom removed all of David's guns from their house to make sure that Christine wouldn't use them on their children or on herself, and that was in 2006.
Okay.
They said that the gun that my husband gave to my brother was registered to David. Obviously, Tom neglected to re-register at least one.
Well, you don't have to re-register it.
I don't know. This gun was registered to David. He can't have guns. He didn't have guns.
Right.
But they're saying that because it was registered to David, they have a problem with it. Tom had a permit for a concealed carry. He thought, as I did, it covered all states. We're finding out that's not true. David and I never saw Tom carrying a weapon throughout our trip. When Tom Matuzos, my husband, told me late Sunday afternoon that he had given my brother, Tom Kula, his gun for the protection of my brother's family, since Melinda, my brother's wife, was instrumental in helping 3 corrupt police chiefs in Ocean County, New Jersey, retire early, I was livid to know that my husband had brought a weapon with him after agreeing not to, but I was filled with peace. I knew it was in a safe place.
Right.
Ocean County in New Jersey is number 7 on the list of most corrupt counties in the United States.
Who made that list?
That was comprised by a university in Illinois, because in Illinois, Cook County, Illinois, they're number 1.
Right. And of course, that's where President Obama came from, and the most corrupt political organization there. This whole county is run by the mafia. It's well known, and has been for virtually the entire last 100 years, and probably before that.
That's also where the last 2 governors had been jailed for corruption.
Exactly. Yeah.
Douglas, I need to make people understand. Tom had a meningioma. It's a non-malignant tumor, and if you never lived with someone that has this condition, you can't possibly understand what it was like. He told me he was fine, but his body was all twisted. His memory was bad. His judgment was questionable, to say the least. He had a dislocated knee at Christmas time, and he didn't take the medicine that they gave him for it. Not the pain pills, not the hydrocodone, nothing. They gave him naproxen, they gave him tramadol. I can't remember the others. He didn't take them. He didn't feel the pain. When I talked to
Very, very important.
when I talked to Dr. Colley, the VA doctor that read Tom's MRI, he pushed on Tom's knee. At first, lightly, and then he pushed harder, and he looked at me as if to say, he should be knocking my block off. And Tom just sat there. So that's when I mentioned the meningioma. And I said to Dr. Colley, do you think this is the reason that Tom can't feel the pain? And he said, yeah, oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. How big is it? I think he was expecting me to say it was the size of a thumbnail. Tom's was the size of a ping pong ball in the 1990s. And I am trying to get an independent examination of my husband. But Beau Biden won't allow the medical
Yeah.
Beau Biden is the son of Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States under President Obama. He's the attorney general in Delaware, and he has told the medical examiner's office that they are not allowed to give me any information about my husband. They are not to release his body to anyone except a mortician. What will stop them from cremating him or burying him someplace where I'll never find him?
Well, you need to put it in writing.
I did.
Tomorrow, the grand jury.
I did.
What?
I did. I sent an email to the medical examiner saying I do not want his body cremated. I do not want it buried. I want an independent examination for my own well-being so that my grandchildren will know that he's not a monster.
Right.
Douglas, even if they ask something so simple, make a phone call to check on not the whereabouts, but that the grandchildren are all right, that David's children are fine, that they're all right, that they're being cared for. Just common questions that any parent or grandparent needs to know. Then their grandmother was not allowed to do so. Neither was Amy, Lenore's daughter, because they were both told that Beau Biden gave orders that the whereabouts of these children are not to be discussed with anybody. We're not asking for the whereabouts of the children. We're asking that they're well, that their each unique problem is being dealt with. And oh, by the way, while we're on the topic, since you do have the children and you have medical facilities, why not examine the children while you have them? And before they go back to, we pray, David and the grandmother and Amy, for healing purposes and uniting this family, they've been through enough. But while you have these girls, has any of the physicians examined them to verify the internal injuries because of the mother's treatment of them, and also considering who she was living with? More reason to turn around and investigate the well-being of these children and see if they had been violated, any one of the children. But none of those questions are allowed because Beau Biden won't allow it. There is nothing that we tried to do that we could not get past this man. So my question is, what is his personal interest in this particular case? What is his agenda? Is it political? Does it have anything to do with gun control or eliminating all of our rights? Because it's something bigger than just these 3 children.
Of course. Now, what I recommend you do, is you're not going to be going before the grand jury for any reason, I recommend that you issue a news release, prepare it tonight, and give it to all the media tomorrow, because all the media will be there, and go on the offensive and point these main things out.
One of the things I will be doing is being on the other side of that wall where they're going to have my own daughter. Diana, my child, my youngest, just turned 18. You've met her. She's a sweet young soul. She is the president of the Autistic Foundation at her school. Diana has been instrumental in helping me with Unite for Justice as a backup advocate to myself in all the different areas where we've been helping for years This is my daughter, sweet, adorable child, and they have called her to be a witness. I cannot be in court to protect her. I cannot be in court to make sure these savages do not bully her or try to intimidate her. I have to stay outside the door, at least be close enough in case she needs me, not be able to go through the door. Her father's not allowed because he's testifying. Lenora's not allowed, so here my child, my youngest, is going to be in that courtroom. The very same one who had 4 of the state troopers following her from her own home to her grandmother's. I don't trust these people. They are coming up with.
Do you understand the importance of having a news release?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. But again, and I will do that, but my priority is to protect my family, especially my little one. They seem to think she's the weakest link. They're mistaken. She's my daughter.
Right.
And you've met her, so you know what kind of backbone she has.
Right, sure.
But
I know that she'll do well there in court.
But I will be.
Do you want to tell the listeners here and put it on YouTube so it'll go, on the film, so it'll go to YouTube and the thousands and thousands of people will see it, what your children have decided to do and why?
Our children, both of them, my son Franklin is receiving his bachelor's this summer, as well as Diana entering college. They want to become psychiatrists. They already have a flood of doors opening for them, and their sole purpose is to help our veterans who come home wounded. They want to specialize in that field because, in both my children's opinion, our veterans are being forgotten by the government. They're not being cared for. They're not getting the help they need. And both my children are looking forward to working with other organizations whose sole focus is making healing available by many means for these veterans who are the forgotten. They gave their life, they gave everything they had. Some of them went through divorces. Some of them came home with memories that they can never erase. Some came home with drug problems. Some came home with missing body parts, and they're left to fend for themselves. So my children are joining other organizations to help them.
Right. Well, I want to just point out one thing, though. If you become a psychiatrist, that means you're a medical doctor authorized to prescribe pharmaceutical drugs, which are the main reason a lot of these veterans who are suicidal, have post-traumatic stress, and they depress all the time, become worse with these pharmaceutical drugs. And if they were to become a therapist, but they studied herbs, what God created for us to use instead of pharmaceutical poison, put all the petrochemicals in our bodies. I would like to maybe talk to them sometime off the air and just discuss that with them. I would like to introduce them to a naturopath who's on the new advisory board. It's called the National Advisory Board for our organization that my son's creating, a nonprofit to help these veterans stop suicide. Because, as you know, I'm not getting all the details about that now. We only have about 6 minutes left.
Mm.
What else do you want to cover regarding this issue for tomorrow? And also for, of course, for Thursday when Dr. David has to go before that hearing out of his bail, which is disgusting to me.
One of the things they're saying is that Tom planned all along to kill Christine, and that David and I knew about it. That is absolutely wrong. The things that Tom planned, trips with Tatiana to Disney, a trip with my mother, to Alaska. Mom went there and she loved it. My mother's 91. He planned a trip with this man, Gene, that he got the storage shed from, and his wife, Janie, to go to Central America. I just found out about that yesterday. Amy called and she said she went to the shed to clean it out, and she was talking to Gene, and he said, I never met a better man, a more friendly person. It was an honor to know him. He paid for the storage shed for March so that it would be paid in advance. And he said, I'm tearing up the check.
Well, that's nice of him.
Other things that Tom was planning, a huge vegetable garden. And he went to the agricultural extension program, the Texas program, where you register your farm, and with a certain amount of money, you can have them come out and level your land. They'll help you with irrigation. They'll help you with the seeds that you need to plant grass for cattle. They'll help you plant an orchard if that's what you want. And Tom went to them sometime before Christmas, saying he registered his land as a farm, I think, or a ranch, so that we could have cattle on it. We could start a herd. He had to catch the 2 cows that were in the pen, both longhorns, both stubborn as can be, and very anti-person.
Stop. Douglas, here's the bottom line. The authorities would like the world to believe that the shooter, Tom Matuszewicz, told or planned with his wife or with David or with both this tragedy. Lee did not know, Lenora did not know what her husband was planning. I believe Tom doesn't know what he was planning because it was spontaneous with him looking at this woman, Christine. David had no way of knowing what his father was going to do. They were peaceful in our home. They were filled with joy. David was filled with hope. But the authorities are not happy that Tom is dead because they do not have a sacrificial lamb to hand over to the public in Wilmington, Delaware. So it's their opinion that if they give them these white people, then the public will be pleased. And that is what this is all about. The gun control matter is a second issue. I'm not sure which is Biden's stepping ladder.
We got a big problem here because of the fact that there are veterans receiving letters now. If you want to have any more VA benefits, you have to turn in your weapons.
So they're being blackmailed.
What?
They're being blackmailed.
Yes, exactly. Well, any veteran naturally wants to have a gun in his home to protect his family, and yet they are being blackmailed big time. Obviously, somebody has post-traumatic stress with it. They see about 10 million veterans in our country, and probably, my guess is probably 20% or 30% are depressed at one time or another because of what they've gone through when in a war.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the Obama administration wants to confiscate everybody's guns, and we know it's not just the veterans, but that's a good excuse. They're going to use, in my estimation, they're going to use Tom Matuszewicz as a poster man to come against all the veterans. And so we need to be praying for justice for all of you folks in the grand jury tomorrow, and also, of course, in the bail hearing on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So let me close with prayer, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just pray for this hour when everybody is in distress because of what's happened on February 11th in that courthouse and that's not a courthouse. But we just pray that you give these families peace of pastor all understanding that only you can provide. And Lord, we just pray that they will get belated justice, in spite of the fact that Dr. David and Lee never got any. They try to protect their children from the pedophile mother. And Lord, we just pray that the truth will come out in a way that the National Rifle Association will get involved, the Gun Owners of America will get involved, and many other gun organizations in Delaware, as well as making this a national crusade. I'm going to we need to ask boat keepers to get involved. And Lord, I'm a member of boat keepers, and so Lord, I just pray that you'll help us all get through this rest this week, and we look for justice. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. God bless you all. We're at the end of the hour, so I have to run.
Douglas, thank
I'll be
you.
in touch with you. Bye.
Douglas, thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.